Take stock of your idiocies and weaknesses and assume that in 3 to 5 years, they auger you into the ground and you are in the worst hell you could design for yourself. That's probable. Write out that, because that gives you something to avoid. Because when you're thinking, well, I have something difficult to do. Why the hell should I bother? It's like, oh yeah, so I won't end up in that hell.
Right.
Right, because part of it is, well, I want to get to where I want to go. That's kind of nice and it's hopeful and it makes you positive. But that's not enough. You also need to be terrified out of your skull.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that properly, well, I'm sure this must have happened when you decided to stop drinking. You must have thought, this isn't good.
I'm not going to be funny anymore. I thought that. I thought there was going to be ramifications. Yeah.
Okay, and so what were they? What did you foresee happening?
I thought I wouldn't be funny. I thought that people wouldn't like me. I thought that I wouldn't be able to meet girls if I wasn't drinking or having drugs or.
Right, so that was what you were afraid of giving up if you stopped drinking.
Right.
What were you afraid of happening if you kept drinking?
I was afraid of not achieving my dreams. I was afraid of ending up a drug addict. I was afraid of dying in my sleep. Something, or dying under the influence.
Okay, so yeah, it's not like that doesn't happen to comedians.
Right,
it happens a lot.
Yeah, it's one of our go-to moves.
Well, exactly. Well, it's not an occupational hazard because you're up late at night and you're around bars all the time. It is because you're up late at night and you're
Chris
partying
Farley right here.
Right, exactly. Well, and it happened to all sorts of comedians and rock musicians. It usually happens at about 27. Weirdly enough. So, okay, so you were afraid you're going to die, or you're afraid you're going to become addicted. So let's say what would have life like been like you for you if you were addicted? So you don't have a career anymore.
No.
Right? So you've given all that up and failed. So that's fun. So that's going to drive you even more towards drugs.
Yeah, it would have been all my dreams. It would have been miserable.
Right.
It would have been hell.
Exactly. So why quit drinking? So I don't end up in hell. Hey, there's a reason to stop. And then if you make that hell real, it's like, here's all the details of my personal hell. Yes, let's avoid that.
Right.
So then you have something to run the hell away from.
Right. So now you have something towards and something to run away from. And I'll say this too, if there's any young men or women out there who are listening to Jordan feeling like, well, I don't know if I start doing something different, like my friends are going to act a certain.
Yeah, they are.
They are.
Yeah, that's right.
But you're going to start creating conversations. You're going to become the intrigue because you're going to be bringing something new to the table. And
you're also going to find out who your friends are.
Yeah.
Because if you're starting to put your life together and you have friends that object, those are not friends. Those are just people you know. They're not friends, because a friend is someone, this is one of the hallmarks of a friend. Here's 2 hallmarks. A friend is someone you can tell bad news to. And they won't tell you why you're an idiot, and they won't interfere with your suffering. They'll just listen, and maybe they'll suffer along with you. Okay, so you can tell bad news to them, and they won't tell you some worse thing that happened to them. They'll listen, and they'll suffer along with you. But a friend is also someone you can tell good news to. And the friend will say, wow, in this vale of tears, something good happened to you. Great, man.
Congrats.
I'm wonderful. It's rare. It's unlikely. Good for you. I hope 10 more things like that happen. And they're not envious, and they're not jealous, and they're not one-upping you. And if you're trying to get your life together, if you're trying to get your life together and your friends get in the way, that's actually real useful for you, because you've now identified who your friends aren't. And you might think, well, I can't give them up. It's like, oh, yes, you can. And not only can you should, and it would be better for them. Because if they're aiming down and they want you going down with them, there's nothing good about what's happening to them, and there's certainly nothing good about that for you.
Yeah, they're not going to, and then they're going to learn, wow, I'm going to lose friends if I continue in these directions. Yeah.
Exactly.
Why is it hard for people to let go of what's so familiar to them, even if it's bad?
Well, because it's complicated. And the thing, that's a really good question. You discount the risk of familiarity that they're familiar with. So like, let's say,
because people are in relationships with the drugs and alcohol. People are in relationships with humans. People are in relationships with jobs. People are in relationships with their own selves, and they're living a lie every single day. But it's familiarity.
Yeah. Well, you say, I have a job I hate. It's like, well, yeah, but I'm not dying from it. It's like not as bad as it can be. So you factored in the risks already. They get invisible. You think, well, I can't jump out of this job because what about all the risk? It's like, yeah, no kidding. You got to get your resume in order. You got to send it out. You got to send 50 of the damn things out before anybody will call you back. Then you have to go get interviewed, and maybe you're not any good at that. You have to come up with a story while you're a good employee, and maybe you're not yet, so you have to figure out how to do that. It's like, what about all these risks if I go look for a new job? It's like, yeah, absolutely, man. Those are risks, and they're harsh, and no wonder you're avoiding them. What about the risks for you to stay with this job you absolutely hate? Well, let's think that through. Okay, so I have this dead-end job. I hate it. I'm getting bitter. Where am I going to be in 5 years? I know where, because I've watched this with people. You're going to be just like you are now, except a lot more of what's good about you is going to be gone, and a lot more of what's terrible is going to be amplified. And you're going to be like, in 5 years, you're going to be 10 years older instead of 3 years older.
Yeah.
Right. And
because it kills your spirit somehow.
Oh, man. Yeah. So it's like, you think, oh my God, there's a terrible risk in pursuing this new job. It's like, yeah, there is a terrible risk. There's a terrible risk in you staying with your job right now. And so one of the things that's really freeing to understand is that you're screwed no matter what you do. There's no secure path forward. Give it up. It's risk everywhere. You think, oh my God, that's terrible. It's like, yes, except for two things. You can pick your risk. That's the first thing. So you get to pick your poison. That's something. And second, you're a lot tougher than you think. So even though there's risk everywhere, if you confront it forthrightly, what you'll find is that you can actually handle the risk. And that's the security.
That's beautiful. And there's so much growth to be had right there when you realize how much, like there were times I was like, man, I could never be a sober person because I'm afraid of, I can't communicate with women, or I'm afraid to, stand around in a circle with tough guys without having like a beer in my hand, or like all these little crutches, I can't. And then I remember when I got like 90 days sober, I was just like, holy shit, man. Like, it was like the first time I'd ever done something, like for myself,
Yeah.
And it just, man, it felt unprecedented.
Yeah. Well, it was.
It felt like I'd gone to the moon almost.
How old were you when you started drinking?
So much of that is even the things that I learned in AA is just getting going, like contrary action. Take the next right action, whatever it is, no matter how I feel, even if I feel like I'm a piece of shit, or I'm not worth something, or that nobody loves me, or that nobody ever loved me.
Yeah.
Like no matter what.
All true. You're worthless. No one loves you. Yeah, probably true.
But get up and and make my fucking bed, and because then once I do that, I'm going to go to the next thing, and then suddenly I'm in the living room, and I maybe there's an egg grilling in the other room, and I'm suddenly in control of my life, and my feelings and my negative thoughts aren't in control anymore.
Take the best next step that you can manage to take.
Yeah.
That's a great rule, man, and that's the right path, hey. And the question, well, if you're
because it's forward,
forward,
it's a forward path.
Towards something worthwhile. That's where you want to be. You want to be moving forward towards something worthwhile. You don't even necessarily want to be where it's worthwhile, although that would be all right. And maybe now and then you get there, and then you're happy. But mostly, what you want to be is moving forward to something worthwhile, which also indicates why you need to specify something worthwhile.